welcome back for another episode of Kapow. I'm Sonia.
And I'm Al, and we're here in King's Comics as usual to take a look at some comics, cartoons, and collectibles. And our roundup today kind of reminds me of that, that thing with weddings.
What thing?
Weddings. Something old, something new, something borrowed, and something blue.
Well, I guess we are looking at the recently released trade paperback of Zero from Image, plus the special edition of the classic graphic novel The Crow, so there's old and new.
Yeah, and don't forget that we're going to be borrowing the time of Mr. Patrick Purcell to have a chat about his new comic, Mechanical Knight.
Okay, you are really stretching it, and I still kind of want to see how you justify something blue.
Well, that one's obvious. We're taking a look back at the life and times of Animal Man, and he wears a blue costume.
Well, the original costume was more orange than blue.
Yeah, but nothing rhymes with orange, so we're just going to ignore that bit.
It worries me that Ray is progressively becoming the normal one.
Me too.
He's going to be with us today to take a look at a cool Mass Effect replica, and then we're going to discuss Miyazaki's new film, The Wind Rises.
Incidentally, did you know that the wedding rhyme is actually supposed to have a fifth thing, that is, and a silver sixpence in her shoe?
Huh. Well, I'm glad you didn't try to link that in there somewhere.
No, because that would have just been silly. Yeah.
Alright, let's go! We've looked at a few comics over the past couple of weeks, and as usual, we've decided to tell you about them, but we couldn't make a link or a connection like we usually do.
Yeah, but I'm still confident I can come up with something by the end of the segment, so just leave it with me.
Alright, well, while you're thinking about that, I might jump into the first review. The Volume 1 trade paperback of Zero, written by Alish Kott. Told mainly in flashback, Zero is the story of a professional spy and assassin called Edward Zero. And it's pretty easy to think when you first start reading this that this is just going to be a standard kind of spy story.
Yeah, but then you see pretty quickly that it's got these sci-fi elements as well, and they become more and more of a focus as the story continues. Now, the different periods in Zero's history are just, I think, separated beautifully by the array of different artists that are involved. In this volume, we start with the thick, blocky lines of Michael Walsh during a mission to the Gaza Strip, then move on to Trad Moore, where the characters become slightly more cartoonish as we see Zero's childhood.
As always, I was pleased to see Matthias Santaluccio in the mix with some awesome action scenes, and then Morgan Jeski's scratchy style working perfectly for a brutal and rather drawn-out fist fight.
And then the almost minimalistic feel that Will Tempest brings to the final section of this volume. Every step of the way, this trade is well measured and compelling. I'm giving it a buy.
Yeah, this feels like the book I've wanted to read since I first read Global Frequency.
Yeah.
Spy-fi awesomeness with a twist on that final page that will head you straight back to the start to do this all again. It is definitely a buy from me.
The next book on the block is Volume 1 of Legend of the Scarlet Blades, written and painted by Saverio Tenuta, published by Humanoids.
Have you thought of a link yet?
Well, they both have people in them.
Yeah,
We're probably going to need more than that, huh?
Yeah, I think you might. Just a little.
All right.
Far from the science fiction tones of Zero, Legend of the Scarlet Blades takes place in a version of feudal Japan that is awash with mysticism and mythical creatures.
And as is so often the case with this sort of story, we follow the exploits of a wandering Ronin, a samurai without a master and without a past.
Raido is a powerful fighter, even though he is missing an eye and an arm, but he remembers no more than his own name and is tormented by voices in his head, until he meets a young Bunraku puppeteer named Meiki, the first person who has been able to bring him peace.
Now, I think the visual style of this book is spot on. Tenuta's brushstrokes evoke this mythical world perfectly, with excellent detail and a bold use of colour.
Absolutely, I'm loving this and I cannot wait to read the following volumes. The complex characters, the unfolding mystery on how Raido has fallen so low, they have me hooked. This is a definite buy from me.
Yeah, look, it's a buy from me as well. Love me a good samurai story. Especially when the samurai is missing an eye. Oh, boom! That's the link. Edward Zero missing an eye. Raido missing an eye. There we go.
But what about the third book on our roster? The special edition release of James O'Barr's classic graphic novel, The Crow. Anyone missing an eye in this one?
No, damn it, not that I can think of.
Right, well, cycloptic deficiencies aside, there can't be too many people who aren't familiar with The Crow, whether that's because of the graphic novel or due to the movie that starred Brandon Lee.
Or due to the fact that for about 10 years, you couldn't go to a fancy dress party without seeing somebody who'd thrown on a long leather jacket, Doc Martens and some face paint.
That's true, but if you are unfamiliar with it, The Crow story is fairly simple. A young couple, Eric Draven and Shelley Webster, are murdered by a gang of drugged-up street thugs in a random and unprovoked attack. Then, 1 year later, Eric returns from the grave to exact his revenge through the power of a totemic crow.
You know, it's funny to say, but in the 25 years since The Crow was initially released, the synopsis you've just given has become more or less standard. It's not that out of the ordinary, but it was James O'Barr's work that pretty much set the benchmark for this sort of story.
Yeah.
And I've got to say, at this stage, his work still stands up.
Absolutely. I think a lot of that's to do with the intensity of his storytelling. The styles and the modes of speech that you see here may have become a little dated, but the raw, painful nature of the story is as clear as it ever was.
Now, O'Barr wrote this story as a way of dealing with the death of his girlfriend in real life, so it's clearly a labour of love, and I think that passion still definitely comes through.
Yeah, the years certainly have not diminished the story. It's still a very confronting and brutal story, but with genuine moments of grace and beauty. I love this. It's a buy.
Well, look, surprising though it may be, I'm giving it a borrow.
Really?
Yeah, well, mostly because I've already got a copy of The Crow.
That's true.
I've actually got 2 copies of The Crow, different editions. And although this does have some nice extras, it's even got some new scenes in there that were originally intended to be in there. I don't know, the purist in me is still digging in his heels. That said, for new readers, this is an absolute gem.
Totally. So, have you thought of a link yet?
Well, they're all about people.
Yep.
People who kill people.
Oh no, don't start singing.
Are the luckiest people in the world.
Really? Streisand. You are bringing the tone down, son.
I'm sorry, I panicked.
Hey Ray.
Hey Sonia, hey guys.
So, femshep or maleshep?
Male ship.
Okay, control the Reapers, destroy the Reapers, or synthesis?
None of those, actually. I shot the catalyst, and therefore the Reapers, consumed all the organic matter across the universe and galaxy. And
Yeah, of course you did.
yeah, I know what I should have done. Shot it with this! It's the Mass Effect 3 M6 Carnifex full-scale replica, masterfully sculpted and painted by the artisans at Triforce. This is arguably the most authentic representation of this weapon available on the market at present. Hand-finished and hand-painted to precision quality, it's intricately crafted and surprisingly cast in polystone. It's just under 30 centimeters long, weighs around 3 kilos, and features a working LED on either side.
And there's only 500 of them worldwide.
That's right. And replica weapon collecting, whether it be for films or games, is on the rise, so don't expect this piece to be gathering dust in store. Plus, I also went onto the Triforce website to have a look at other items available, and a lot of it is sold out. So
Clearly, they know their stuff.
yeah, that's right, they do. And the Carnifex here is a great example. It looks impressive, it's imposing, but most of all, it looks genuine. The paintwork is excellent. I'm glad that there isn't too much battleware as well. Sometimes replica firearms look like they've been through a washing machine lined with sandpaper.
It's heavily weighted to the front, which makes it a little difficult to hold with one hand, but then again, this is a two-handed weapon.
But isn't it a sidearm?
Yes, but when you couple it with a scope, it makes a lightweight solution for picking off enemies at range. So you need the other hand for stability.
Ooh, someone's played the game. Yeah, I know, I have too, but I just forget the smaller details sometimes. Anyway, the LED emits a decent enough light, and to turn it on there's a nifty magnetic piece that covers the switch. What I like most is that it doesn't need batteries. Instead, in the same area you'll find a micro USB charging port.
I would have liked the LED to be red. I mean, it looks cool, but that's the blue light from the Carnifex in Mass Effect 2.
So that would mean it's not a replica, right?
Technically, no.
Alright, then what's your verdict?
That small detail is a little bit of a letdown.
Yeah.
The M6 has a really nice gunmetal finish to it, and it does feel good in the hand, but it's a borrow. I just don't think this piece is refined enough overall.
I'm glad you said that. I agree. Look, there's a lot of parts on the weapon that I want to move, and I'm really disappointed that they didn't, especially something like the trigger. But I guess that's, you know, what you get when you make something out of polystone. If, you know, you could reload the weapon or manipulate it somehow, it would give it function, and then it would, you know, broaden its appeal. And retailers and developers could then, you know, capitalize on that. I think developers need to look beyond the shelf as just a standard museum piece, and also triple check those smaller details. It's a borrow from me.
Hey, what if it made sounds?
I make my own sounds. Bang, bang. Yeah.
It was going really well.
Yeah, well, I'm working on the...
You keep working on it.
bones.
Okay, so we're here today with Patrick Purcell from Winter City Comics. Thanks for joining us, Pat.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. Now, first off, I've got to ask, how's Winter City been going?
It's been going really good. No, we've had a good time. I mean, it's been, what, 2 years since we last came on and visited you guys. We're up to issue 8 now. You know, they're still selling. People are still loving it, giving us great feedback. And issue 8 should be out any day now. Nice. So, yeah, no, big time. It's a big issue too, really big issue. A lot of... revelation. It's an issue that people have been waiting for. So
yeah, it has been building up.
I'm pretty excited it is. It's sort of that moment that people have been going, when's this going to happen? You know, when's the breaking point? So we're finally there.
That's going to happen. Excellent, because I've been waiting for that.
Any day now.
Aside from that, though, we're here also to talk about your new all ages title.
Yes,
so
correct.
if you could tell us a bit about that.
Yeah. New book, Mechanical Knight, or a new series, I should say. Time to start stretching our creative muscles and do something a little bit different. So late last year, we pulled the trigger and we started this new series called Mechanical Knight. It's an all-ages story set in late Middle Ages, and it's sort of a fantasy science fiction cross. So the synopsis is you know, a giant explosion erupts in the sky above the lands, and wreckage rains down all over the place. And shortly after this event occurs, strange mutated monsters and animals start sort of appearing all over the place and attacking villages, and everyone's terrified and afraid and don't know what to do, and it causes a lot of trouble within the lands, and sort of civil war, and it starts to break out, and barbarians start to try and sort of take over, take advantage. But that's sort of the backdrop. The story is really about a young boy, or a teenager, 13, 14-year-old, called Marcus, and his father, Hector. And Hector was a war hero, but he got severely injured and lost his leg in battle, and now he's the town blacksmith. So when the explosion occurred, a piece of wreckage fell into their yard, and being blacksmith, they thought, you know, great, we've got ourselves some metal, let's drag it inside and see what we can do. And when they pull it apart, they uncover an incredible device which changes their lives and sets them off on a big adventure to unite all the feuding lords and the men and women across the lands to then go to war against all these monsters and mutants that are invading. So
there's a lot going on.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. No, it's a big scope. There's a lot. Yeah. There's a lot of. It's a big sandbox to play in. You know, we've got a lot of ideas, a lot of things to do, and it's a mystery as well. You know, what was the explosion?
Sure, yeah.
Where have the creatures come from and why?
So you've got that sort of medieval thing. You've got the almost mythology of the monsters coming in.
Yeah, that's right.
Bit of sci-fi as well. It's you got a lot of stuff going on.
We're calling it an all-ages story. We think it, everyone can get something out of it. You know, we've got a bit of everything going on there.
And it is an interesting choice going all ages. Obviously, Winter City, for anybody who has read it, it's fairly graphic. You know, it doesn't pull many punches at all. So now you're going for more the all-ages thing. What sort of was behind that decision?
Well, one part of me feels I need to stretch my creative muscles a little bit and try something different, but also I'd like to be able to tell my stories to a larger fan base, to more people. There's only so many people that can get into the gritty serial killer murdering sort of comics that Winter City is. I mean, it's still, I still love it. It's still a passion of mine. It's my baby. But I feel that I've got stories to tell everybody, and this is my first chance to try and get those new stories out to more people of all ages. Plus, of course, I have an 8-year-old son, and he can't read Winter City, and he's always asking me about it. So I sort of go, well, how about I make something that I can at least read to my kids in the short term? Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. great. Well, it's getting close to this new title coming out.
Absolutely.
Where are people going to be able to get hold of it first?
Look, I'll be releasing previews on our website. We're going to have, it's not live yet, but mechanicalnight.com. It'll be there. You've got the domain. We're putting it together. So you'll get a preview up there actually probably any day now. We're finishing it up as well, very close. But as usual, King's Comics and hopefully any other local comic book store. So to go in and ask for it if you're interested, that'll be fantastic. Hopefully we can get it on some of the digital distribution platforms as well, of course, for iPad and tablet.
All right, great. So that's coming up soon. Mechanical Night. Keep your eyes open. And look,
Please.
Patrick, thanks for coming on board.
Pleasure. Thank you very much, Al. Always a pleasure.
What's wrong, Ray?
Oh, look, I just can't believe it's his last film. That's all.
Yeah, but shouldn't his career be celebrated?
Yeah, I guess. I don't think I'm ready to say goodbye to Mr. Miyagi yet. That's all.
Don't you mean Miyazaki?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Right. Okay, well, why don't you tell us about his latest film?
Yeah, sure, I can do that. The Wind Rises, also known as Kaze Takinu, is an animated historical drama written and directed by Hayao Miyazaki, adapted from his own manga, which was loosely based on a short story by Tatsuo Hori. It's a fictionalized biography of Jiro Horikoshi, designer of the infamous Mitsubishi A6M-0 fighter aircraft.
Now, as usual, expect to see some beautiful animation.
Absolutely. One of my Ghibli pleasures is watching how softly everything moves. It's a trademark of theirs, that flow of movement that's almost like a dance.
Yeah, there's a buoyancy to it, even in moments of action or danger.
And some of the images were stunning. There were so many moments where he surprised me with detail. The anticipation was like watching the upward trail of fireworks before they explode into colour. And at the same time, he has this wonderful way of capturing pedestrian life that makes you just want to stop and smell the roses.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I got from this film. You know, not to be swept away by the cares of the world, to live to dream rather than to dream to live.
Well, yeah, that was one of the most beautiful things about the film, that war was slowly enveloping this world around the characters, and yet there was still room for love and ambition and joy. This was largely possible because the characters belong to an upper echelon. However, Miyazaki doesn't neglect the hardship that others are enduring through the same period. However, that juxtaposition could have been greater.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Did you like Jiro?
Oh, I did. I thought the voice of Hideaki Anno was terrific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, he actually directed Neon Genesis Evangelion, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah.
Very good.
That's
Pretty
very
cool,
cool,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I thought the voice work overall was great, and there seemed to be a genuine vocal chemistry between Anno and the supporting voice cast.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the relationship between Jiro and his sister.
Yeah.
That was really great.
Yeah, me too.
And the
It's funny.
music is really sweet too, with some amazing orchestral pieces. But did you notice anything unusual about the sound effects?
I did, yes, but I doubted myself, so I had to go home and Google
Yes.
and look it up. But I was right. A lot of the sound effects are actually made by human vocals, and they're also, I didn't know this, they were also recorded monorally instead of in stereo. And what this does is it kind of gives the sound an effect of a narrowing of the sound or an isolation, and this kind of helped to create that illusion of children at play and making all the sounds, you know, themselves.
Yeah, it's very cool. It kind of added to the magic.
Yeah, absolutely. So are you gonna give it a buy?
Actually, I'm not.
Oh.
Yeah, I thought some of the dialogue was a bit repetitive and, dare I say, a little heavy-handed.
Okay.
And I don't feel like a lot of the characters, the peripheral characters, kind of affected Jiro enough. It didn't seem like he actually had that much to overcome. So ultimately, as beautiful as this film is, I'm going to give it a borrow.
Yeah, I didn't think that there was a big enough obstacle for him to overcome either. Even though he had his own personal quest for ingenuity, I didn't think that was enough. It's more difficult to convey the thoughts and emotions of an animated character on screen than a real person, and since there were so many moments of Jiro by himself, the story fell a little flat at times. The story did shine, however, when there was a lot of character interaction. Overall, it's an ambitious work and it's beautifully told, but I think it's lacking in dramatic tension, so I'm going to give it a borrow as well.
Cool, he's still a master.
Oh yeah, absolutely, no one can take that away from Mr. Miyagi.
Miyazaki.
Yeah, that's what I said. What I said, isn't it? Miyagi? From Karate Kid? Oh, crap! The chopsticks?
The year was 1987. Aretha Franklin had just become the first woman to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, actress Karen Gillan had been born, and George Orwell was proved wrong for the 3rd year running.
Where are you going with this?
No, I'm building up to something.
Yeah, because we're supposed to be doing a segment on Animal Man.
Yeah, I know, and I'm building up to something. In 1987, DC Comics were riding high on the success of Alan Moore's Swamp Thing and Watchmen, and so they were looking for other British writers to juice up their catalogue.
Hence Grant Morrison, hence Animal Man.
Exactly, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, but that wasn't his first appearance, though.
No, the year was 1965.
Yeah, I'm going to stop you right there. Animal Man was created by Dave Wood and Carmine Infantino. His first appearance was in Strange Adventures, number 180, but he only appeared 5 times in his original incarnation, never gaining much popularity. Just one more blonde superhero with an animal gimmick.
But when Grant Morrison rebooted the character in 1987, one of the most important things, arguably, that he changed in the character was that he made him a father. And when you think about it, how many of the big super types are married with 2 kids?
That's true, but that's just what made him endearing, though. Buddy Baker was an everyman, a regular Joe trying to provide for his family.
Yeah, a regular Joe who can absorb the abilities of any nearby animal thanks to an alien spaceship exposing him to radiation.
Yeah, sure, but he started dressing up as a superhero mainly to raise money for the band he was in.
True.
I love Buddy Baker because he ends up in endless, ridiculous scenarios fighting aliens and combined mutant animals, but he reacts to them like a regular guy. And eventually he seemed to spend more time advocating for animal rights than he did punching bad guys in the face.
The scenarios did get increasingly bizarre in the Grant Morrison era, though, I've got to say. I mean, culminating in a complete fourth wall breakdown. Buddy takes peyote in the desert and goes on a vision quest, where he ends up looking directly at the reader. Later, he uses a time machine to travel into his own past, and later still, he actually meets Grant Morrison.
I'm not a huge fan of writers putting themselves into their own stories, but looking back at all the clues and the foreshadowing that Morrison sprinkled through the story, going all the way back to issue 5, the Coyote Gospel, I'm not quite sure how else his run could have ended.
After Animal Man was handed over to other writers, and then when it moved on into the Vertigo imprint, it took on more of a horror comic feel, particularly when Jamie Delano was writing for it. I mean, Buddy Baker died several times during that period, and that was when he was first connected with the Red.
Ah, yes. Now, Swamp Thing readers will be familiar with the Green, a force that connects all plants and foliage on the planet. Now, the Red is the same thing, but for animals. And it's become more of a focus in his recent reboot in the New 52.
Yes, and this is where I've gotten right back into Animal Man again. Jeff Lemire and Travell Foreman seized on the idea of Animal Man as a horror comic and brought us The Black, also known as The Rot, a third force to counter the Red and the Green, connecting all death and decay on the planet.
Lemire's version of Animal Man has again slipped out of mainstream superhero work at the start of the reboot, even acting in an indie movie called Tights. But when his daughter Maxine begins to manifest powers of her own, a trio of horrific monsters called the Hunters 3 show up, and everything goes straight to hell.
Paving the way for the Rot World crossover, which featured Scott Snyder's New 52 Swamp Thing, as well as Lemire's Frankenstein Agent of Shade.
And yet, despite the success of Animal Man, Lemire's decided to end Buddy's solo adventuring with issue number 29, having found a natural end to the story that he wanted to tell with the Baker family.
Yeah, luckily though, Animal Man will continue to don the tights as a member of the newly formed Justice League of Canada.
Yes.
Also penned by Lemire.
Yeah, so that's just a brief look at a very unique and versatile character from the DC universe. I mean, he's been a political activist, an actor, a hero, and I'm pretty sure the only hero in the New 52 that was married.
Yeah, that's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should probably do a Kings of the Round Table thing, go full talk show on that. Superheroes and why they can't hold down a relationship.
Well, guys, that is another episode of Kapow in the bag.
Like a cat.
Next time, we'll be getting our super soldier on with Captain America.
Yes, alongside the release of Winter Soldier, which is very exciting indeed. So until then, guys...
Oh, hey, do you have any change for the train?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. All 5-cent pieces, huh?
Yeah, the 50s hurt my feet.
Yeah. The smell.